All right, so it's recording now, and yeah, I'm ready to start when you are, Debbie. So just give me the green light, and I can jump in.
Okay, so why don't I do a quick introduction for people? And I would like to introduce my friend Kareem Mostafa. And he's the author of a book called Original Series How to Create Binge Worthy B2B Content That Drives Revenue. And he has helped hundreds of small businesses and marketing agencies improve their content strategy. I can't even say that word this morning. But anyway, um, so here we are with Kareem.
Awesome, Debbie. Thank you so much for the opportunity and for having me. And for folks watching the recording, hopefully you can leave with at least like one business changing idea that you can apply right away. Everything that we're going to be talking about is super practical, so hopefully you will be able to implement it regardless of team size, regardless of um, resources in general. I tried my best to just make it as agnostic as possible. So wish me luck. I'm gonna start sharing now, and we can jump in. All right, cool. So today's workshop is called How to Turn 1 Hour into 1 Month of Content. And we've been given this workshop for years. We've been refining it as well over time. So yeah, hopefully you're getting the latest version, as it were. So in terms of what we're going to be talking about today, we're going to first start by talking about how content is changing in 2023 and beyond, why content success is getting harder, how to build your unfair advantage, and then looking at easy ideas and tools that you can get started with today that are free. All right, so let's jump in. First of all, just by way of introduction, my name is Kareem Mostafa. As Debbie mentioned, I'm the co-founder and CEO here at Chopcast. I've been running Chopcast for the last 4 years, so the entire existence of the company. Before that, I spent a couple of years working as a marketing consultant at HubSpot, working with agencies. And prior to that, I worked in LinkedIn in a different capacity. So my whole upbringing is really like social media and social channels and content in general on these platforms. So yeah, hopefully I'll do a decent job of just sharing with you what I've been learning over the years to save you that time. All right, so yeah, quickly, like Chopcast is a free-to-use tool that can allow you to basically take your long podcast recordings and very quickly identify the key moments in them so that you can turn them into like YouTube Shorts and things like that. This is the platform that we're going to be talking about at the end of today. But yeah, I just wanted to let you know what Chopcast is in case you are curious about it. And yeah, in terms of there are some freebies, Debbie. I forgot to tell you, there are some freebies that are part of this workshop. Yeah, so the first one is we've put together a content repurposing crash course. It's basically 20 minutes long, so it's nothing too crazy in terms of like time investment, but I think it could really help the community a lot in terms of learning the specifics of like content repurposing. So anyone watching this recording, feel free to hit up Debbie afterwards. She can give you access to that course. It's a separate course from this, obviously. You'll obviously get the recording to this workshop. You are getting the recording right now. The other thing is, yeah, you'll basically have a free trial to try the Chopcast platform, and if you just reference that you came from Debbie's community, we will be happy to give you like a one-on-one onboarding just to make sure that you have everything you need as far as getting started with Chopcast. And then last but not least, Debbie, you were kind enough to mention the book at the start. We're giving that book away for free. So maybe Debbie, you can come up with a way to pick a lucky winner, and we're happy to give them a copy of the book in that.
Oh, that would be fantastic.
Cool. Does that sound good so far?
Yeah, it sounds great. I didn't realize that people would be getting all these freebies, so that just makes this even better.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, we're all about trying to give value. So hopefully this is valuable. And yeah, yeah. Any questions you can put them in the chat. But I guess Debbie, like if I mean, feel free if you have any thoughts or comments, like feel free to just interject because I do tend to go on monologues as mentioned.
Okay.
And yeah, without further ado, we can jump right in. One warning to share is that beware of dogs. So this is my dog. His name is Cooper. You might find him coming in and out of the office. I did close the door though, but he's getting smarter every day, so I wouldn't be surprised if he figured out how to like open the door. But yeah, hopefully he won't be barking too much throughout this recording. And all right, without further ado, let's finally get started. So, to address, speaking of animals, let's address the elephant in the room. Building a brand is getting harder, and the reason why is because uh, this is pretty much a quick snapshot of what's going on in every single social media channel every single day. And mind you, these stats are actually a little bit outdated. These stats are about a year old, which means it's only gotten, these numbers are only higher right now. But for what it's worth, let's take these values at face value. 2 million posts go live on LinkedIn, 95 million on Instagram, 800 million on Twitter, over a billion on on TikTok, 3.5 billion on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube. I'm forgetting all my channels today. And then last but not least is 3,000 Y on Facebook. And the Y stands for years. There's 3,000 years worth of video content being published on Facebook alone. That's not even like, that's Facebook alone. That's not even everything else. So pretty overwhelming to say the least, but it's better for us to just know what we're up against so that we can really figure out how to navigate this properly. But to dive a little bit deeper, let's figure out like why it's getting harder. So first of all, it's because of time. It's also it's because we don't have a lot of time to create content and run a business, right? Content creation has become a full-time job. But if you decide to become a full-time content creator, maybe you may think that this is not as revenue generating as like doing your actual business. And so time is naturally a factor, specifically for us small businesses. We are a small business as well. We're about 9 people. The next thing is personnel. So speaking of people, sometimes you don't have like all of the headcount or just like all the hands on deck that you would have ideally had. You don't necessarily have a 50-person marketing team that you could just like assign tasks to. So that's definitely a factor as well. And then last but not least, and it's probably something that relates to the first two, is budget. Resources are tight. The economy is going through its go-throughs right now. So there's a lot of volatility in the market, and needless to say, now is not necessarily the time where people have massive content budgets. So these are basically the top 3 reasons why content creation is getting harder. And it really comes down to really balancing these 3 things in lockstep. So being able to create quality content in a high enough frequency or quantity, and to be able to nail the distribution alongside that. Now, from just like all the things that I've been learning working with a lot of different brands, both in Chopcast over the last 4 years, but even before that, I'm just learning that brands and content creators in general tend to be really good at one of these things, maybe 2. They'd get a lucky break and be good with 3 of them for like a month, but we've yet to see a lot of folks like figure out how to get these 3 working together in lockstep. I'm going to try my best to share with you a simplified version of how you could do that today.
Yeah, so
Debbie,
one of the concerns that a lot of people have too is the issue of being what people call omnipresent. And as a beginner, how do you be omnipresent when you're just one person trying to create content? And I think that's one of the things that I really like about this course.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, being omnipresent is something that's just so important, because I think at this stage, like Debbie, like folks realize that their customers aren't only on Facebook or aren't only on LinkedIn or aren't only on TikTok. They recognize that these people most likely have accounts on all of these platforms and most likely engage in all of these platforms. And they're also realizing something else, which is that if for my business, for example, it's really quote unquote obvious to be on LinkedIn, which it is, maybe it's not as obvious to be, let's say, on TikTok. Well, then in this case, there's an arbitrage really that I can leverage by being on the not so obvious platforms before it becomes obvious, right? So this is really another reason for being omnipresent. A lot of folks would say, I'm really glad you brought this up, because a lot of people would say, you know what, my target audience is on Facebook. I'm just going to stick with that, even though we all know that no, these people are not confined to Facebook. They naturally have a lot of other social media accounts, and your competitors may not be there or not as extensively. So that could be the opportunity for you to leverage. All right, cool. So a lot of times people will come and say to me like, hey, you know what? I'm gonna grind it out. I'm gonna figure out how to do quality, quantity, and distribution. I'm gonna work hard to just figure out a way to do this manually because you know what, Kareem, hard work pays off. Well, unfortunately, it doesn't in this case because there's a very real thing called burnout, which is like how long can you actually do these things, especially if you are a one-woman shop, a one-man shop, or like you have a small team and they're already up to their eyes with work, your VA included. Like, how are you going to figure this out in a way that's systematic and scalable? And so sheer kind of like brute force hard work, I don't think will work in this case. And so the alternative that I'd like to propose to you is to start repurposing content. And so repurposing content is maybe something that you've heard of before, but in this context, in this workshop, we really want to talk about a methodology for how you can just systematize that and just make your life so much easier. So in case you folks are visual like me, an easy way to think about repurposing, and once you see this, you cannot unsee it. So consider yourself warned. Let's say we're creating a webinar. If we publish a webinar is, well, as in terms of content, like that's one piece of content. But what repurposing allows us to look at is, hey, this is no longer one piece of content. This recording can get chopped up to like the moon and back, right? It could be turned into a written article. It could be turned into 5 image quotes, for instance, maybe 5 vertical videos, square videos, podcast assets, and so on. And not only is this this is not like some arts and crafts exercise that's nice to have. This is absolutely essential. I mean, as we were looking at earlier, 3,000 years of video content are being published on Facebook alone every day. And so the more omnipresent you are in a lot of different like channels this way, the more you're making yourself more discoverable to others, as opposed to insisting, you know what I mean? Insisting that people log into Facebook and watch your 75-minute video. You have to make it easy for people to get to know you. Don't make them climb up a hill. Make it easy. If they're in reading mode, make sure there's an article there. If they are maybe on TikTok or on YouTube Shorts, they're not looking to go crazy on video watching. They're just looking at like quick clips. Make it easy for them to experience your brand at that time. Debbie, would you agree? Like, would that does that make sense though?
Yeah, absolutely. And it seems like being able to make shorter content from one big content, being able to do that easily is huge. I mean, rather than trying to come up with all these shorts from scratch. And
Totally.
I know for me, I watch stuff on YouTube, and then I might be on Facebook, and I enjoy reading. So, I mean, if there's ways for me to do things on different platforms, I'm going to take advantage of it.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And we do the same thing as well. So I mean, it's it's something that we have been like getting the benefits, reaping the benefits of in terms of like, because like you never know like where people are going to hear about you from, and so it doesn't hurt to take this super valuable asset that you already have and find ways to make it available in a lot of different flavors, a lot of different forms, long form, short form, and be able to use these as supplementary business assets. All right, so in terms of repurposing content, the biggest benefits are spending less time on content because of exactly what Debbie was talking about, that you're not necessarily creating individual shorts or individual short pieces of content every single time. You're creating the one thing, but creating it with repurposing in mind. Then, of course, you get to save money, as well as being able to be everywhere at once, as mentioned. And then last but not least, you're really, creating once, you're using it multiple times, especially if you're creating content that's evergreen. It basically means that even if you use that same content, like if you scheduled like a month's worth of content, you can probably use that content like later on in the year, and most likely no one's going to say, hey, I saw that before. Chances are they haven't even caught it the first time. So the fact that you have evergreen content allows you to have the most like sustainable type of content that you could literally use month in and month out, year in and year out. And then last but not least is, sorry, I already said last but not least, but really now last but not least is to spend less time in promotion. So rather than creating the one thing and then spend the rest of your social existence saying, hey, just check that thing out, check that thing out, check that thing out. you can actually get a lot more creative and actually effective in the process by just sharing nuggets of that same one thing for people, for your audience, for your respective audience on the other end. They're seeing every single piece of content as something that is unique, something that provides standalone value. Maybe it's entertaining, maybe it's educational, maybe it's funny, it's inspiring, but that really makes it easy for you to really tackle your promotion strategy, as it were, because every small nugget of piece of content that you create is exactly part of your, or it pretty much defines your promotion strategy. All right. So without further ado, I wanted to share with you a quick content repurposing model that you can use to really wrap your head around, how to take the content, especially the content that you already have, let alone the stuff you're about to create in the future, the stuff that you already have, that valuable content sitting there. How do you actually find a repeatable mechanism of identifying the key ideas in those videos so that you can actually turn them into content that you can use, as I said, year in and year out? So we actually have a whole course on the repurposing course that I'll share with you goes into this in a lot more detail. But this is basically our content repurposing model. So it's pretty straightforward. But just to walk you through the sections here, it starts with the sections in red. So basically the why, we have the how, the what, and then finally the where. So it starts with the why. Typically, you will either have a goal of driving brand awareness or business development. And brand awareness is basically brand awareness. Business development is basically sales. And so naturally, if we're running a business, our end goal perhaps is most likely to drive sales and to grow the business. And so many of us might select business development, but I would warn against that and argue against the fact that if you don't already have an audience that you command its attention, if that's correct English, you could and you must create content with brand awareness as your primary goal. So this only applies in special circumstances where you already have an audience and they've been loving what you're putting out, and now it's time for you to really give them even more value in exchange for the price of your product or service and so on. So get clear on what your goal is. Let's say it's brand awareness. The next thing then is, before jumping into like, okay, I'm going to open up Canva, I'm going to open up Chopcast, I'm going to start creating content. Before you even jump to that like kind of level, think about the how. So this is an easy way to be able to identify key moments within your videos. So these are, we call these the 6 lenses. So if you count, these are basically 6 boxes across, and basically everyone represents a quick mental shortcut that will allow you to very quickly identify key moments in your videos. So one example would be Q&A moments. So basically looking at your video, almost like putting like like a pair of glasses on. That's why they're called the 6 lenses. You're putting on a pair of glasses where it kind of mutes out everything in your video except the Q&A moments. And that could be a nice shortcut to be able to identify key moments as basically the parts where there was a question asked and an answer given, perhaps. The next thing would be statistics and facts. So especially if you're doing like a podcast or somebody drops a specific stat in your video in general, you can bet that this is something that other people would want to hear about. That's again a nice mental shortcut to count as a clip or a piece of content in and of itself. So on and so forth for the others over here. I'm not going to repeat it because there is a whole course on it, which you guys will be getting for free. But basically, the idea is that once you've determined the lenses, let's just stick with that Q&A one, for example. So brand awareness and Q&A. Now that we've decided that we want to put our Q&A lens on and create only content based on like the Q&A moments, now we have the liberty of deciding what format do we want to create it in. So do we want to create video content in the form of like key highlights or like teaser clips? Do we want to create audio content in the form of like podcasts or audiograms? Same thing for image and written content as well. This is the beauty of starting with the lenses first, because notice that because we've identified the Q&A moment first and looked at the lenses first, we can now determine what's the best format to put it in, or what's the multitude of formats that we could use over here. And then last but not least, of course, is matching that with the where. So let's say we went with brand awareness, Q&A moments, and we're going to create video content primarily. The next thing is the where. So you have to share the content on your own personal LinkedIn profile and any other personal social accounts where you're there building your personal brand. So it may or may not apply to your Facebook, depending on how you're using Facebook. But for your LinkedIn, like LinkedIn is non-negotiable. Perhaps you're active on Twitter as well, or you're not, and you want to use this as an opportunity to be active on Twitter. Then that's absolutely relevant here as well. Because a lot of folks, specifically those of us who are running companies, right? Companies with like a different name than your own name. Say like I'm Kareem, but my company's Chopcast, two different things. They would just say, "Oh, company contents. I'm just going to publish it on the company's page." That's fine, but that's only like a third of what you should be doing. You should use that to build your own personal brand as well. And then last but not least is to use your ability to be able to create a lot of valuable content to attract similar minded people and to really build a community around you. Perhaps you already have a community of folks who are also talking to the same audience that you're talking to. Share their content and have them share yours, and really regard that as like one of your distribution channels. I'm gonna pause here though, Debbie, in case you wanted to add some comments or thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen this breakdown before, but I think, so I've just been taking my videos and kind of going with the clips, but I think being able to break it down into categories makes it much easier to think about content. So when I'm creating like my YouTube videos or something, being able to break it down with the different lenses, I think is going to be super helpful in terms of creating more effective clips and ways to promote both my brand and myself.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And yeah, I thought you may have not seen this before, so I thought I'd make it a surprise. Cool. And yeah, last but not least, this is the course that I was referring to. So Debbie, I'll make sure I share the slides with you as well, and basically folks can just click on this link and you'll be able to get that crash course for free, where we go into this into a lot more detail.
That's awesome.
Awesome, of course. All right, so this is all well and good, nice theory, but theory is not the same as practice. So let's actually get into practice. In this case, we're going to look at an easy repurposing workflow. There is a gazillion workflows, especially if you're following us on Chopcast. Like, we literally publish content every single day on this kind of stuff. This is just, so I just want to stress that this is just one way. It's not the be all end all. If you are starting out, forget everything else and follow this for sure. That's for sure. The first thing is to make it easy on yourself. Life is already challenging. Make life easy for yourself as far as content is concerned, and start with video. So more specifically, create a video series. So don't just publish a video and call it a day. Try to think of a video series idea that is kind of like continuous, or something that you can probably talk about from now till the end of the year, right? Or for at least 10 episodes. A nice round number that we like to aim for is 10 episodes, and you can call that a season. So aim to create just like season 1 of this video series idea that you have. And hey, if it works, do a season 2, do a season 3. And keep in mind, every season will drive more people saying, hey, I want to check the first season out because I'm already loving what's in season 2 and 3. Let me start from the beginning. And of course, if that 10 episode commitment you made didn't pan out in the way that you expected, that's no problem at all. You've collected a lot of data, you've learned. And now it doesn't mean video series doesn't work for you. It just means that this particular video series idea that you had needs some fine tuning or needs some pivoting, right? But either way, you will never know unless you actually take that step and create a video series. And now you might be thinking, okay, well, how do I create a video series? Well, the easiest way to do it, or rather the 3 easiest ways to come up with a video series, are as follows. Most classically, of course, video podcasts. You may already have a podcast if you're watching this, or you may have been considering one. Maybe you had one in the past and you stopped it because it really wasn't working, but hopefully some of these ideas will help you get back on the saddle of podcasting. Podcasts are great for thought leadership. The other one is workshops. So kind of like this one, although this is a one-shot kind of like workshop. If you can do this better and actually create a series of workshops where every workshop you talk about something else, this could be great for creating educational content. But I'm going to let you in on a little secret, something that I don't talk about enough, and is actually so much easier than creating a podcast or workshops, is something called an FAQ video series. And you could literally go to something like ChatGPT and say, hey, what are the top 10 frequently asked questions about my industry or your specific niche, ideally? Like, because the more specific you can be with something like ChatGPT, the more helpful the output is. And you could literally take these 10 ideas and create a video for every single one of them. And you can rest assured that these are, I mean, obviously you have to validate it, and you know your industry best, so you have to verify what ChatGPT is sending you. But you could literally create an FAQ video series where episode 1 is you answer this one question. Episode 2, you're diving into another question. You don't need to get guests for that. It could just be all you, and it could be a nice way for you to just get the ball rolling on content. And then you can start to look at one of these other 2 things. But if you're starting from scratch, definitely start with an FAQ video series if you are looking for something that's just like super low maintenance, super easy to get started. And yeah, Debbie, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, from the last time that we talked, you mentioned the FAQ series, and actually that's one of the things that I took action on was typing in, the most 10 most commonly asked questions about my niche, and I did a video on that, so I'm looking forward to, once it's published, getting that in. But that was super easy, and I didn't have to sit and try and think about, what am I gonna make a video on? I already had it right there to do. I do have one question. A lot of people have Facebook groups, and they do like training, training in their groups. Can those videos then be used for the same purpose?
That is an excellent question. Yeah, and I would totally categorize that under workshops if it is like educational content in general. And yeah, basically as long as you're able to get access to that recording and download it, and I think there's a lot of tools that allow you to do that. You could basically take that content and repurpose it. What people might find challenging is if they're trying to force it on content that they've previously created, and it's just not valuable to chop up. But provided that people are creating like educational content or entertaining content, either or, it should be something that is repurposable. And specifically and crucially, if you're going to be doing this for the future, just keep in mind, and you have the benefit of this knowledge now. Try to just, they say like approach your goals with the end in mind, as it were. And so in this case, when you're about to record something new and share it on your respective Facebook groups, make sure that that this content is going to be repurposed. Maybe this will nudge you to like create content that's a little bit more organized, content that has at least, for example, 5 to 10 key points, so that you can just chop it into like 5 to 10 clips. You'll just start to think about it as if you're planning, just like with planning anything, you're just planning ahead and making sure that you realize that this content is going to be chopped later on.
Yeah, that's one of the things that after talking to you, I've kind of focused more on being more organized with my thoughts and my presentation, so that it does break up more easily into different sections. I think when I first started, with my YouTube channel, it was more stream of consciousness type videos. And one of the things I'm trying to do now is be more organized and specific with what I'm saying in order to make it easier for repurposing. So I think that's been super helpful.
Yeah, that's a great story for sure. And I mean, it's even like sometimes with so right now, like we've recently launched a podcast called Key Moments, we've actually started recording it, but we haven't actually launched it yet publicly. So that's one content stream that I'm working on with the team. But the other content stream is the FAQ video series, and I just do that by myself. One trick that I like to always fall back on is to make sure that for every video that I create, I want to make sure that I say at least 5 things that are like borderline useful, 5 separate things, because this way I can basically get a week's worth of content from the one video. And so if I create 4 videos in one sitting, I've basically given myself and my team like content for a month, because every video can have 5 key moments, and every key moment can be its own little short. You know what I mean? And let's say every video, and each video won't be anything too crazy. Like it could be anything from like maybe 8 to 10 minutes long. Like it's honestly not that long, but the way it's been recorded, the way it's been designed, totally 100% by design, is that I want to make 5 distinct points so that it's easy to chop these up later on. Cool. All right, so let's carry on then. So if you remember, we were talking about an easy repurposing workflow. So what we're going to start looking at is the steps to that. So the first thing is to repurpose your video. I'm assuming you have a video series at this stage. Repurpose your video into these social cut downs. So again, you could use Chopcast to do something like that, and we'll look at that in just a second. But basically, you can upload your videos into Chopcast, and it will automatically watch the videos for you and identify the key moments. And of course, if you wanted to create your own clips based on topic or keyword, you could do so very, very easily. Yeah, so that's basically it. It's honestly as simple as that. The other thing then is that you can actually use Chopcast to repurpose that video into an article. And the way to do so is simply to upload your videos to Chopcast, and then you'll be able, Chopcast will give you back. One of the things that you can get is a transcript of everything that was mentioned. And you could very easily take that transcript, pop it into ChatGPT, and say, hey, turn this transcript into an SEO optimized blog post for the keyword of, let's say in my case, I would maybe talk about content repurposing, you know what I mean? Or something more specific like content repurposing for B2B brands, for instance, right? So you can kind of think of that example and do it for yourself. The hard work is done in terms of just getting that transcript, and you can use something like ChatGPT to be able to do that inside the inside your browser right away.
Yeah, that's an awesome idea. I knew I got a transcript, but I never considered using the whole transcript from the video and creating then blog content, because I also have a blog. So this this just makes creating content. I got a ton of ideas now. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I'll let you in on a little secret. We're trying to make it so that you don't even have to go to ChatGPT for this. We want to bring the ChatGPT functionality into Chopcast.
Oh, that's
So
awesome.
you're not just getting a transcript, you're getting like a full-on like article ready to go pretty much. So that's something, yeah, that we're working on, which we're excited about.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's in the meantime, it's just instead of a one-step process, it's a two-step process. So nothing too crazy. All right, and then the next thing is you could repurpose your video into quote cards, like image quotes, right? So stuff like this. And this is probably the one time where image content is actually better than video content. Although video is king because you can take the video and do so much with it. I would argue that in some cases, like image content, which is considered like sometimes like old school content, can actually be super powerful because you're taking a moment in time in that video and you're freezing it, you're kind of like immortalizing it. Maybe you have a podcast with another guest and you really want to focus on something meaningful that they've shared or something valuable that they've shared, and naturally something maybe that they may share onto their own network as well. So you could do so very simply by again using the same transcript feature inside Chopcast, and basically just scan the transcript to identify segments that you think are like quotable segments. And again, it's a simple two-step process. You could basically have a template designed in Canva if you don't have one already, and all you're doing is pretty much just copying and pasting the text into Canva. And I'm pretty sure, I think in Canva's recent, we're not affiliated with them, but I think they're an awesome company. I think they released something recent where you could like upload something like an Excel, like a Google Sheet file or an Excel file of like text, and it's just gonna turn each one of these into a quote, something like that. I hope I'm not misspeaking, but if someone from Canva is watching this, I hope I explained the feature correctly. But this basically means it's even easier to do it. You just take the transcript from Chopcast, find the bits that you like, and put that over to Canva. Again, it's something that we want to bring into the product, so watch this space for sure. All right, and then last but not least, and this is probably the easiest thing that you can do. I promise you, this is a one-click process. Is to basically repurpose your video into a podcast. Now, although you may have a video podcast, podcast like the origin of podcast is that it's an audio only format, right? And so with your podcast, don't forget to make sure that podcast lives on Spotify, lives on Google Podcasts, on Apple, and so on, because you never know if people may want to consume your content that way better, like they prefer that format. And B, you never know if someone is searching for, like literally using Spotify search as their Google search, or using Google Podcasts to search for something, and they're typing in certain keywords. Maybe they're looking on something on like, I don't know, productivity, or something on repurposing or something, and they've never heard of you before, but your podcast started ranking because there are way less podcasts out there than articles. And so for all you content writers out there, if you're looking for a way to make your content articles stand out, don't do podcasts. That's so much easier to do, especially if you are starting out. And keep in mind that with your podcast, you can still, as we talked about a couple slides ago, you could still go ahead and get that article. So you can have your cake and eat it. But just don't skip this step because it's really, really simple and it can provide you an immense amount of value. The way to do that is step one, you upload your video to Chopcast, and that's it. You basically just get an MP3 file that you could basically take and upload to these other platforms. Now, one of the questions that we always get is like, hey, Kareem, well, now we have a ton of content. How do we begin scheduling it? And so this is a sample content calendar that I can share with you. And yeah, the way that it works is very simple. So this is like spread across like a 2-week sprint or a 2-week time period. So let's consider the following. And this is perfect for you to start off if you don't have a benchmark yet. Definitely start with this, and then you can start to experiment and modify it to your liking. But on Monday, that's when you release your full-length episodes, both on YouTube and on Spotify. Spotify here represents like just all the audio channels that you want to go after. And then on Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, and the Monday and Tuesday of the next week, so basically all these blue play boxes over here, that's when you're basically sharing video content. And then on the Wednesdays, you could just regard that as the day to share image content, just to see what the response is like when you share image content instead. Maybe on the second Thursday, you're sharing an article, that pink icon over here. And then on Friday, when things are a little bit more quiet for most businesses, I would assume, you can actually reserve that to be your recording day. And on the cycle goes. So this is basically just a simple content calendar. And obviously, you don't have to do it all by yourself. You can perhaps have someone come in and help you with the scheduling of the content. It is actually something that we offer as well, but you could easily find someone on Fiverr or Upwork.com to do so for a very, very cheap and like affordable rate that you can nominate, especially if you can see the quality of their work beforehand. But yeah, this is just a quick sample calendar. Debbie, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I like that. I usually try to actually do my recording on Monday, but I like spreading it out and doing different things during the week. So actually with one video, you're getting 2 weeks worth of video clip content, which is cool.
Yeah, at the very least, absolutely. All right, cool. So now let's head over to Chopcast. I just wanted to walk you through a couple of not even a couple of things, but just the things that we literally were talking about, like how to actually do that inside Chopcast. So I'm going to go ahead and open that up over here. All right, so can you still see my screen, Debbie?
Yes.
Awesome. All right, cool. So I'll just pick an example video here. Let's say this one. So sorry, just to take a step back, the way that it works with Chopcast, once you create a free account, you could basically upload a video here. You can upload it straight from your YouTube channel, or if you're dealing with recordings from like your Facebook groups or elsewhere, you could simply just upload it to your computer, upload it rather from your computer. Basically give it 10 to 15 minutes, depending on the duration of the video. It could even be just a couple of minutes. But what Chopcast is going to do is it's going to try and watch your video and identify clips. You see these small numbers here. So in this case, 12 or 10 and so on. These basically represent the number of clips that you get from these videos. And this is almost like a free gift from Chopcast. Like, hey, here's a first pass at like some good clips that we've picked up on. Now you can take these clips and basically edit them further, or just create your own clips to begin with. Except it's not going to be manual where you have to watch everything. You could literally type in a specific keyword or topic. If you remember the lenses we were talking about earlier, you could literally type in a keyword or a topic and it's going to create clips for you on that. So let's walk through all of that together. So this is a video that we have. These were some like auto-generated clips. I actually use this example a lot. So a lot of these videos have been edited a little bit. But let's say this clip, for example, there's one here called where she was talking about experts in title of the clip is experts in the field, and let's say I wanted to download this clip as is, I could simply just go ahead and click on the MP4 button over here. But naturally, if I wanted to edit the clip further, you can do so inside the video editor. I have no idea why I keep looking up in the ceiling in this video, but please try to ignore me. So the idea here is that you can see in the video timeline the specific selection where Chopcast thinks this is a good clip. And based on that, you could basically modify the start and end time. And if you notice in the subtitles over here, it's always going to adjust to your specific selection, which is pretty neat. The other way that you can create clips is that, say you like a specific segment in this, you could basically just select this like so, and you can create a new clip based purely on that selection that you made, which again is very, very helpful. Last but not least, if you really want to get like precise in terms of like figuring out where your clip starts and ends, you could just zoom into your timeline just using your the scroll on your mouse, or just like by dragging this over here. And again, this will make it easy for you to really be precise in terms of the clip that you want to create. And of course, if there's anything that you wanted to edit manually, you can just, let's say I wanted to make this capital, I can just, edit that right away and just click on submit changes. All right, so that's one way to create clips. Another way to create clips is based on speaker detection. So basically, if you have a podcast where there's like more than one speaker, you could actually click ahead to all of the different color-coded segments here. And these represent the different voices that Chopcast would have picked up, maybe between like a guy and a girl, or like a guy and a guy, or a girl and so on. And so you could basically, let's say in this case, I know that the lady in this video, she's basically all of the blue sections. So if I wanted to, if I only care about what she had to say kind of thing, I could just skip. I can already see like visually in the timeline, like, oh yeah, that's where she was speaking. That's the part I care about. Let me go ahead and export that as is. And if you're familiar with Canva, like you should be able to navigate Chopcast. It's a similar sort of interface or vibe in general. One last thing to share with you is that if you know specifically what topic or keyword you want to focus on, you could actually go ahead and type that in. So I know she was talking a lot about like carbon footprint. So let's say I'm searching for this as a keyword or a topic. I can actually find that over here and very quickly be able to create clips on these specific sections. So I no longer have to watch the video at like 2x speed just to find the key moments. I could just find that over here very, very quickly.
Something I'd like to point out too is that the transcript is already on the video. So you're not having to pay someone to transcribe your video and then re-upload with the transcription and all that kind of stuff. It's already, because so many people watch the videos with the sound off these days, and so having the words already on the video, I think it's super great.
Absolutely, and yeah, you basically get the subtitles completely for free with Chopcast, and yeah, this is something that you could definitely use to like just make your videos a lot more pronounced and have it so that the content is almost consuming itself for you. Like, it's just so much easier to consume content that has captions. And Debbie, I would even argue that sometimes, or maybe I'm just the only weirdo who does this, but like sometimes when with the sound on and captions, like it just makes the content easier to consume. Like a lot of folks would still enjoy captions even if the sound is on.
Yeah.
Last but not least, you could basically do things like, turn this into like a square video, vertical video, add like text layers. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not a designer now, but like you get the idea. You could basically create a quick template super easily and just download that as such. The last thing to share with you is in terms of, let's do a different video in this case. The last thing to share with you is like how to get the transcript and the podcast files. And it couldn't be easier. You can already probably guess by just looking at this, but basically in one click, I could go ahead and download the MP3 of this, as you can see right here. Same thing with the text file. So the very final one at the end, you could literally see the transcript like so. I could, in like 2 seconds, okay, maybe not 2 seconds, 2 minutes, I could take this, give it to ChatGPT and say, hey, can we do an article based on this transcript? So you can definitely have fun with that. Best of all, guys, all of this stuff is completely free. There's a free trial for Chopcast, so hopefully you'll get a ton of value out of it. Let's see if there's anything left in the slides. Yes, one final thing is, if you do end up following these ideas, please do share your creations with me. I'd really love to take a look. If you want some feedback on it, I'd be happy to do so as well. But yeah, without further ado, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thanks so much, Kareem. This has been a super awesome. One of the things that I know you guys are continuing to improve Chopcast all the time. It's already made huge improvements from when I joined. And one of the reasons why I've always been hesitant with like shorts and TikToks and things like that is, coming up with another idea and how do I do it and all that kind of stuff. And I've already got my YouTube videos. And so being able to put them in, and even the little, the ones that Chopcast picks, the 10 automatic clips, with just some really minor editing, I've been able to upload those pretty consistently to my YouTube channel. So it's been for me a huge time saver just with that.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear. That's awesome to hear. I mean, like, there's just so much more things that we're working on. It's just we're such a small team, so like we have so many ideas which aren't even coming from us. They're literally coming from our user base. We have like a couple thousand people using Chopcast, whether it's on the free version or on the paid version. But either way, like, we're just getting so much feedback on, how to make the product like better. So by the time you watch this recording, Chopcast might even look a little bit different than what we were just looking at together. Either way, like, yeah, like, we're always, the reason why I mentioned that is because I guess one of the benefits of us being a small team is that we genuinely listen to every single piece of feedback that comes through, and we action on it. So action it, and it's every idea we hear like takes a place in the roadmap. It just depends on like at what like priority level it's going to be, given the other things that we're working on with regards to like prioritizing features overall. So yeah, hopefully you guys found this workshop helpful. And yeah, Debbie, I wasn't sure if you had any other questions.
I don't have any specific questions. One, because I've been using Chopcast and kind of familiar with the way the process works, and I consider myself to not be super technical. So the fact that I've been able to jump in and use it is a huge thumbs up for you guys, because it seemed to work right out. I didn't have any technical issues in terms of getting it to work. So for me, that was a huge plus.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you so much for your vote of confidence, Debbie. That's definitely great to hear. And to be honest, yeah, like, we want to make it so that people don't need to have like a PhD in video editing just to be able to use Chopcast. The whole idea and vision of Chopcast is that you don't need to edit videos to begin with. Like, you just upload the videos and it kind of does its thing, and you can basically just use it and share it with your community. So yeah, that's what we're working on. But yeah, thank you so much for the opportunity for doing the workshop today.
Yeah, well, thanks for doing it for me. I think this is awesome, and I think people are going to get a ton of value out of just being able to create. I mean, I just used the 10 clips from things, so I already have two weeks worth of content right there just from one video. So, and I haven't even thought about doing picture posts or anything like that. So
yeah.
And the idea of using some of my videos as my blog post now is, I mean, that in itself is going to be huge. So that's fantastic.
Awesome. I'm glad the ideas resonated. Cool. All right. Well, Debbie, thanks again so much. And yeah, we'll see you guys soon.
Okay. Thanks a lot. I really appreciate it, Kareem.
Thanks.